What is your biggest reason for moving abroad? Maybe it's for the cheaper living, the health care, or perhaps the weather. The truth is, you will move abroad for the reason you want, but what else will you get with that cheaper living or better weather? Have you ever thought about that? Welcome to our Retire Early lifestyle. People move abroad to one of the 10 best countries for cheaper living. It's true, you can move abroad and rent in one of the 10 best countries a nice gringo-priced large apartment for $1,000 in a foreigner condo building or enclave. You're now living it up in a cheap country. Yippee! And most of your neighbors are now Americans, the same ones you were maybe trying to get away from in the U.S.? People can leave the overpriced and high cost of living in the U.S. and live on 1/2 of what they would pay for rent in the USA. So yes, we're not saying you can't find cheaper rent abroad. Of course you can. But what else are you going to get with that cheaper lifestyle? What did the travel influencers forget to tell you about the cheaper lifestyle? Well, let's take a look. Well, you'll get consecutive rent increases year over year. Why? Because you're considered rich and the landlords will increase your rent. You can bet on it. For example, on average, rents have gone up 40% in Mexico in just 3 years. But it's even more than that in high-traffic cities like Cabo San Lucas, Cancun, Mexico City, Puerto Vallarta. You'd be smart to stay outside of those cities unless you're willing to pay U.S. prices for everything. So let's say you move to Mexico in a less trafficked area and you manage to find $1,000 to $1,200 a month rent. And just a few years later down the line, you're paying $1,400 to $1,500 a month for rent. Maybe even more. It depends on how much traffic the area is getting. Now that's on par with the U.S. And clearly, if your monthly income is substantially higher, will you enjoy being constantly hit on for more and more money for everything? Because that's how it really is. Because we've been there and done that. We've seen it with our own eyes for 13 years. And remember what we've said before on this channel. There is always someone willing to pay more for rent, which inevitably increases your rent. The landlords find out who is paying the highest rent in the condo building and use that as a precedent for your rent. Even if you earn a poverty-level income, you're considered loaded to the locals in cheaper foreign countries. In 2026, the federal poverty level for an individual in the U.S. was $16,000, and for a family of 4, it's $33,000. These amounts are used to determine eligibility for various assistance programs, but in most of these countries, you won't be eligible for various assistance programs because they don't have them. Hello, rich people living below the poverty line in the USA. No kidding. Why do you think those locals are smiling so much? Bottom line, cheaper living does not stay cheaper. Landlords love to increase the rental rates by $100 every year, but sometimes more. So every year your rent could realistically increase by $100 or more. Also, everyone knows by now that foreigners get gouged for virtually everything that does not already have a fixed price. It's just part of life in a cheap country. Welcome to the dark side of being an American expat living in a cheaper foreign country. Did someone say cheaper? Really? Number 2. People move abroad to one of the 10 best touted areas of the globe for better weather. Better weather often means hot, muggy, and humid, or chilly and cloudy. And guess what else you get in that tropical environment? Mold and musky houses, and you get many, many different types of insects, some with diseases like those pesky mosquitoes, and very pricey electric bills. That's what you get. When we were in Puerto Vallarta 2 years ago, people were coming down with dengue fever. It's an endemic in tropical and subtropical climates. Tropical paradises are just the perfect breeding grounds for all kinds of tropical diseases. Much of Latin America has the prevalence of dengue now. Just go on YouTube and search, "I got dengue fever." Pick your Latin country. But the warmer, humid climates are the worst. So yes, they're also in Asia. Most people don't know that dengue is a companion to polluted and filthy water. It's why it exists, and it is just a matter of time before you get bit. Let's talk about eternal spring weather that we're told is in Cuenca, Ecuador. Sometimes the weather does not even have to be that humid outside or hot to have mold growing inside your home, especially if it's made of cement and there is no ventilation in the home, which encompasses almost 100% of the construction in Cuenca, Ecuador. All the travel influencers love to say how great the weather is in Cuenca, Ecuador. They will tell you it generally has mild weather and it doesn't snow or get below freezing at night. And that's all true. We're not disputing that. You're going to get that. But it is cloudy most of the time and it can rain for days. Here is the typical Andes weather in Cuenca. This was taken right outside our house. Our house rental in Cuenca had chronic mold issues, and it was built just a few years prior of us moving in. Right after moving in, we all started in our family sneezing, sniffling, and getting headaches, but we didn't have a cold. One day we spotted the mold, and that was when we put two and two together to our sniffling and sneezing fits. But the weather in Cuenca is considered dry air. We wanted to know why. If the Andes Mountains is considered dry atmosphere, why we had mold in our home. We actually conducted 8 mold humidity experiments, logging everything in video, and found out that inside our cement home, it was always at least 70 to 80% humidity. And here are some pics of the mold. It was hiding in the kitchen cupboards and inside under the drawers. Many people say Cuenca, Ecuador has dry air, but the humidity tests were showing 80% humidity or more a lot of the time in our house. We actually found out that Cuenca's buildings are moldy, and it's actually a moldy city. The cement homes in Cuenca have no vents for airflow. I had to keep cleaning the mold every few months the whole 6 years we lived in that house. Many people will tell you they moved to a tropical paradise for better weather. In a country like Panama, Thailand, or Costa Rica, you may think the weather is better, but you will have to put up with a high electric bill, that's for sure. Living in a tropical paradise isn't cheap when you're running the AC 24/7 just to breathe, especially in countries where electricity is a luxury or highly taxed. And the icing on that cake is that the frequent power outages in the tropics will guarantee you will have a whopper of a time. We know. We used to get power outages in beach town Salinas, Ecuador that lasted a day or two. Remember the new Miami? Yeah, that one. In Costa Rica, for example, where it's hot and humid year-round, running the AC 24/7 will add an increase of $250 a month for a small home and up to $500 a month for a family home. Wow, that's a lot. So be sure to add that on to your regular electric bill if you want to move to a hot and humid country like Panama, Costa Rica, Thailand, the Yucatan of Mexico like Merida. It might be a bit cheaper AC bill in Mexico and Panama than that, though. So you better think about these additional features of moving to a country with so-called better weather, because better weather often comes with disease-carrying insects, unbearable humidity, and high electric bills, and in our case, mold in our home. And don't forget those lovely power outages. And while we're at it, we might as well say water outages, right? Number 3, people move to one of the 10 best touted countries for healthier living. Really? Well, we just talked about the health aspects of moving to a foreign country in our previous video, and so we're not going to talk too much about that right now. But we do want to say this. What bothers us is how most everyone says you're eating fresh organic when you go abroad, but you're really eating pesticides. Just a little, says the farmer. Many of these top 10 countries have looser regulations on chemical spraying than the U.S., so just knowing that tells you that just a little pesticide could really mean a lot. Just saying. If someone were to just look quickly at this infograph, wow, the USA uses so much pesticides on their food crops. But take a closer look and we'll notice that the USA really uses less pesticides per hectare of cropland than most other countries of the world. This is how we get hoodwinked by the vested interests and rams. The food, according to this chart, is showing much cleaner in the USA than many other countries of the world. Besides the very poor air quality in Southeast Asia and the parasites in the food being sprayed and irrigated with unfiltered chemical and bacterial-filled river water, the health thing they push on you just flies right out the window, doesn't it? One last thing I didn't touch on very much in our previous video about health. Travel influencers love to show all the cheap, good-looking street food, but they don't show the weeks spent recovering from waterborne illnesses in tropical paradises, do they? We're constantly hearing and reading about food poisoning in Southeast Asia. What's going on over there? Reports even say food poisoning is prevalent in Thailand. This year, 29 public health officials, that's funny, public health officials are attending a seminar at a Pattaya hotel, suffered food poisoning symptoms, and 9 of them had to be hospitalized. Oh my. Also, there was another family that went to Thailand, and the husband also got food poisoning in Thailand, and he later died from food poisoning. So while cases like Rex tickle are thankfully rare, there are persistent reports of foreigners coming down with severe food poisoning in Thailand. And it's just not the street food either. Many of those who have succumbed have reported being poisoned by Western food or food prepared at resorts and hotels, catering primarily for foreigners. When we read some of the reports, it's usually poisoning from seafood. Our advice, and to foreigners traveling to Southeast Asia or anywhere really, don't eat the fish no matter what. Stay clear of the seafood. And here's the food poisoning rates by country in 2026. Here in Southeast Asia, that's Thailand right there. There's Vietnam and Laos. Let us tell you something. If they quit telling you how much healthier it is to live in the top 10 expat countries, we'll stop telling you about how unhealthy it is to live abroad, okay? Is that a deal? We'll be waiting. Number 4. People move abroad for the touted excellent health care. Healthcare stinks in the USA. We know that. Tell us something we don't already know. That actually means healthcare prices. The U.S. healthcare itself is something expats will usually return to get the quality they expect. That is not really there when you go abroad. Here's something you don't know. Foreign countries know the USA healthcare stinks and that you're moving to their country for the free public health care. And well, they're taking advantage of this very well-known fact. Here's what's happening with free healthcare in most countries now. The free public healthcare usually now comes with a wait list. In many European best countries, public healthcare is affordable, but comes with a month-long wait time, sometimes even more. So if you have a condition and need and want the U.S. standard speed, you're going to have to be paying for private insurance, which is skyrocketing. And those skyrocketing prices will continue to climb for the foreigner. It's just how it works. There is much more we could say about the healthcare systems abroad, but we don't have to. Expats that have used the healthcare abroad are sharing their experiences on our videos now. Thank goodness we still have honest people who aren't afraid to admit the healthcare isn't always what you've been told when you move abroad. Number 5. People move abroad to one of the 10 best touted countries for quality of life. Really? Here is what we see and hear the most from expats that have lived abroad or still are living abroad right now for quality of life. After 6 months, the honeymoon ends and they realize they are now living in a permanent tourist trap. 75% of expats realize they can't speak the language and feel like an outsider. The word often used by Americans is isolation from society. They feel isolated. Well, yes, if you can't understand what people are saying and you can't talk with them, the isolation becomes a real thing. 75% of Americans realize that their better lifestyle they sought out for is actually quite lonely, even when they move abroad with a loved one, such as a spouse. Even if you are the extroverted one that is happy-go-lucky, you'll still be stuck with the same round of expats that one by one end up going home. The disconnect is real, folks, and it becomes the biggest challenge for people and is why they return. Add that onto the bureaucracy headache of the top traveled countries, making everything much, much more difficult and challenging now. You've got the endless paperwork or the visa runs, which are tightening up in Thailand on a grand scale. We've even had expats report that it's not a relaxed lifestyle anymore when you're spending 3 days a week at a government office attempting to get residency. And don't forget to budget for that bilingual facilitator to follow you around to take care of any glitches in your daily life, which is a common thing in places like developing countries. Bottom line, moving, retiring, and traveling around the world is not what it used to be. Countries are getting stricter. Things are becoming more expensive, and it's really not an atmosphere that most people will end up enjoying on a permanent basis. We say, take a vacation and enjoy the sights, culture, people, and adventure without the need for all of the bureaucratic hoopla and challenges of trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. Bottom line, sure, you'll get what you went for and so much more. Some positive things and some negative experiences. It's just how it is. Tell us what your expat experience was like in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.